So the common misunderstanding is the Christians think we're actually in the new covenant, not realizing the new covenant it doesn't start until it kicks off the 3.5 years of Great Tribulation, and then that's when things are going to be kicking off, and such terrible things are going to be coming upon the earth that men's hearts are going to be failing them. Okay, now this doesn't happen, okay, this new covenant and the 3.5 years of Great Tribulation until Yeshua came, refreshed the Holy Covenant, like Peter tells you in Acts 3, when he quotes what Moses said about him, until the restitution of the 12 tribes of Israel after he refreshed the covenant. Now, the 12 tribes of Israel is all of the tribes, not just Judea, which is in the land at the moment, which is in a lot of shit for removing the bound and not telling the northern kingdom of Israel who they are, but then just strengthening the hand of the evildoer, so none does return from his wicked ways. And then the other 10 tribes, which is the northern kingdom, they was completely dispersed to the four corners of the earth, even up until the point of Great Tribulation, according to Deuteronomy chapter 4, because they're too busy doing the same thing as well the northern kingdom of Israel did in 2 Kings 17, which is bowing down under an evergreen tree, which is talking to you in the Christian church who are supposed to be counted for the seed of Israel in this refreshing of the Holy Covenant. But because you reject this, and you reject all the prophecies which were before you, like Peter warned you not to do in 2 Peter chapter 3, because if you do, you people are going to twist Paul's writings as you do the other scriptures, but it's going to be to your own destruction. So when we go to 2 Peter chapter 3, verse 8, it says, "But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are as one day." So right there, Peter's telling you a day in Jehovah's sight is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are as one day. So telling you basically 1,000 years to us is a day to Jehovah, giving you this spiritual aspect of what this day means. Because when we go to Hosea chapter 6, it says this, "After 2 days, which will be 2,000 years, will he revive us," meaning Yeshua's going to return, okay? "And in the third day, 3,000 year, he will rise us up, and we're going to live in his sight," talking about in the millennium kingdom when that new covenant is made, meaning we're not going to be under sin anymore because everyone's going to know Jehovah, just like the attribute to the new covenant. And then, so right there is telling you Yeshua tarries for 2,000 years. We go to Jeremiah chapter 30 because this is telling you the same thing, okay? It says, "The word that came to Jeremiah from Jehovah, saying, Thus speaks Jehovah, God of Israel, saying, Write there all these words that I have spoken unto thee in a book. For lo, the days come, says Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, says Jehovah." So at the minute, we're still in captivity because we're in Mystery Babylon, being oppressed by all these wicked people in the churches and all of these ones that are ruling over us. For lo, the days come, says Jehovah, that I will bring again the captivity of my people, Israel and Judah, says Jehovah, and I will cause them to return to the land that I gave to their fathers, and they shall possess it. So right there, he just said, "I'm going to bring again the captivity of my people." Now, I know that's a bit of a shit word, bring again the captivity of my people, because it makes it sound like they're going to go into captivity. But when you actually go to the Hebrew in the Strong's Concordance, it actually means to undo or bring home. So he's going to bring these people home again, back to their own land, take them out of captivity, so they're not going to be under sin anymore, but they're going to learn the righteousness of God, just like Hosea chapter 2 tells you when he teaches them their ways, after he's made a new covenant with them, with the beasts of the field, so on and so forth, once he's sown the seed of man in with the house of Israel, okay? So then we go on in verse 4, it says, "And these are the words Jehovah spake concerning Israel and concerning Judea. For thus says Jehovah, we have heard a voice of trembling and of fear and not of peace." So right there now we're saying we've heard a voice of trembling and of fear and not of peace. Talking, we have heard these ones who have actually directed their heart to following Jehovah. They have heard the report about the devil being cast down in the sixth seal over the drunkards of Ephraim, which is Isaiah 28, because they don't listen to the refreshing of the Holy Covenant. And these people are going to be trodden underfoot, because these are the ones who are being deceived by these Jeremiah 23 pastors, even though Jehovah just told you there is no peace, but is nothing but trembling. You are all being deceived by these Jeremiah 23 pastors who are teaching you you're once saved, always saved, peace, peace, and no evil is going to come upon you. But the problem is these people who are saying no evil is going to come upon you, it's this group of people who know perfectly that the day of the Lord so comes like a thief in the night, because they've actually been watching and they listened to Yeshua in Revelation chapter 3 when he told them to strengthen that which remains. Now, that which remains is the Holy Covenant, the Ten Commandments, when Yeshua did away with the punishment of sacrificial law, so we no longer stone each other, but now we love our neighbor as ourselves, which means we turn the battle to the gate and go out and look for that John 10 second sheepfold who actually have ears to hear, and they're not going to listen to the freaking hirelings in these churches who are telling them they're once saved, always saved. Yeah, so, but these people who are actually going to be entering the new covenant, who actually have this poor and contrite spirit who trembles at Jehovah's word, these people know there's not going to be no peace, but we know it's time for mourning, lamentation, and woe, because it's the complete destruction which is coming upon the earth. And you was told that John is going to prophesy again in front of many tongues, nations, languages, so on and so forth, quoting Ezekiel chapter 2, 3, and 33, talking about becoming them, Ezekiel 2, 3, and 33, watchmen, and watching over God's people before the wrath of God comes upon them, because they completely deceived by these wolves in the Christian churches. So then we go on to read in verse 6 of Jeremiah 30. It says, "Ask you now and see whether a man does travail with child." Okay, now this is an important thing, whether a man does travail with child. "Wherefore do I see every man with his hands on his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness." So right there is telling you, why does he see every man with his hands upon his loins like a woman in travail, talking about them 10 years of sorrows, like I mentioned earlier about, which is the time of Jacob's trouble, but he's going to be saved out of it, and then everybody's faces are going to be turning into paleness when that great and terrible day comes upon them, because they wasn't listening, but they was listening to their wicked wolf pastors who were telling them they're once saved, always saved. And then we jump to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5. It goes on to say, "For when they shall say," this is verse 3, "for when they shall say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them, as travail upon a woman with child, and they shall not escape." So when all of you people are sat in this Christian church and this vain imagination saying peace and safety only, but even though we're not in the peace and safety, because the peace and safety will be when we're dwelling in our own land, then sudden destruction is going to come upon these 45,000 denominations of Christian churches who are being deceived by these many Christs, which Yeshua warned about in Matthew 24, before the signs of the end of the world and of its coming, this is what's going to happen, and all these armies are going to be gathering against Jerusalem for battle. And considering in the new covenant, according to Isaiah chapter 2, they're not going to learn war anymore, but they're going to beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, so on and so forth, and they're all going to dwell safely in his holy mountain. So considering all these armies are gathering against Jerusalem now, you wicked Christian church, how could you possibly think that we're in the new covenant when they're also fighting back? You know? So right there then, it just talked about a woman in travail, so on and so forth, okay? And another place for this, because it does wink to this in Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 6, it says, "Ask ye now and see whether a man doth travail with child. Wherefore do I see every man with his hands upon his loins as a woman in travail, and all faces are turned into paleness." So what that's actually talking about is winking at Revelation chapter 12. And in Revelation chapter 12 it says, "And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars," which right there, so that woman in travail, so on and so forth, and the crown of 12 stars is talking about that first Revelation 12 sign, which happened in September 2017, round about them areas, and it's talking about the start of Jacob's trouble, that 10 years of birth pangs, because a generation is 70 years, like Psalm tells you, but 80 by strength, but then is it sorrow and basically travail, okay? So it's at them 10 years are the 10 years of sorrows of Jacob's trouble. Then it goes on to say, "And she being with child cried travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered, And there appeared another wonder in heaven. So this would be after Jacob's trouble, the sixth seal. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew a third part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. Now that's the sixth seal, okay? And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. So right there it talks about the devil taking a third of the angels and casting them down to the earth, just like Yeshua warns you about in Matthew 24, about after the tribulation of those days, then the sun is going to be darkened, the moon shall not give her light, so on and so forth, talking about the sixth seal, because it's all the same thing about this portion of Jacob rising up in these last days, turning the battle to the gate, and warning you people before the destruction comes, so you can have chance to be counted for the house of Israel, so the new covenant can be made with you. I'm ready to be born. Did I read her? Yeah. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up unto Jehovah and to his throne, which is the ones in Revelation chapter 2 who actually overcome, and then he gives them a rod of iron. And the woman fled into the wilderness, which would be the second Exodus, where she had a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years. So right now that's referencing back to Jeremiah chapter 30, like I just said. Let me actually jump there and have to read it. 2 seconds. So right there, we just read about in Revelation chapter 12 about the devil being cast down. Sorry about that. I freaking couldn't find the book again. But we just read in Revelation chapter 12 that the devil gets cast down and then that man-child gets caught to the throne, which is actually quoting back to Jeremiah 30, where it talks about this voice of trembling, so on and so forth, which is talking about knowing that devil is being cast down. And this is why these people who are entering the kingdom know perfectly when all these people are in this vain imagination, peace and safety, this is when the sudden destruction is going to come upon them. So that man-child got taken out of the way as the devil is cast down. And this is exactly what it tells you in Jeremiah 30, which Jeremiah 30 and 31 obviously go together, because in 31 it talks about the new covenant being made with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. The same thing is what it tells you in Hebrews chapter 8, okay? So it says, alas, for that day is great, the great tribulation, so that is none like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. The man-child caught to the throne. It's even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he's going to be saved out of it. So right there it is telling you he's going to be saved out of it. Why? Because when we go to 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, for God have not appointed us to wrath, but to obtain salvation by our Lord Yeshua Messiah. So right there, again, the ones who are not appointed to wrath, who know perfectly when they're saying peace and safety, these are the ones who are not appointed to wrath because they've actually been watching. Then it goes on to say in Jeremiah 30, so it says, for it shall come to pass in that day, says Jehovah of hosts, this is verse 8 of Jeremiah 30, that I will break the yoke from off thy neck, and I will burst thy bonds, and strangers shall no more serve themselves of thee, but they shall serve Jehovah their God, and David their king, whom I will rise up unto them. So that burden which is upon these people, my yoke is easy and my burden is light, is going to be taken out of the way, and the burden was upon it is going to fall, just like it tells you in Isaiah 22, talking about Jacob being taken out of the way. And then it talks about, obviously, he's going to raise up unto them David their king, which would be Yeshua, because obviously he came from the lineage of David when you read the Chronicles of Mary, whatever the fucking heck it is. So yeah, right there, the burden's going to be taken off it. So what that burden is, let me rephrase that. That burden is the fact that these people are out fulfilling the royal law, and that is the burden on them, knowing everybody is going to be persecuting and hating them with that Matthew 10 sword, because they're actually doing the work that Jehovah called for them. But eventually, once that daily sacrifice is taken out of the way, the burden is no more going to be upon it, and then great tribulation is going to come on the entire world because these people refuse to listen. So Jeremiah 30 verse 10, it says, therefore fear thou not, O my servant Jacob. The servants serve, they have their ears nailed to the gate, which is Yeshua, like he tells you in John 10. Back to Isaiah 22 again, those ones who hold the key of David, because they are virgins and they're not defiled with women, physical women, meaning they do that 3-day sexual fast under the Sabbath, and they're not defiled by that great whore, which is the Catholic and Christian churches. Therefore, fear thou not, O my servant Jacob, says Jehovah, neither be dismayed, O Israel, for lo, I will save thee from afar, and thy seed from the land of their captivity. And Jacob shall return, and shall be in rest. When he's taken out of the way, he's going to be in rest, and be quiet, and none shall make him afraid. So eventually Jacob's going to be in rest, and he's not going to have to be fulfilling the royal law anymore, because we're going to be in the new covenant. And just like it tells you in Hebrews chapter 8, no one's going to have to teach anyone to know Jehovah, because they're all going to know me, from the least of them even unto the greatest of them. Where do I do? Oh, where did I want to go? Okay, yeah. 2 seconds. Let me do this. I gotta try and find it. I can't remember. Fuck. 2 seconds, sorry. Yeah, I got it. Isaiah 62. So, what we just read in Jeremiah 30:10 was that he's going to be quiet and in rest, but that's different to what you see through the rest of the scriptures, where it is telling you for Jacob to turn the battle to the gate. For example, we go to Isaiah 62. It says, I have set watchmen upon your walls, O New Jerusalem, which New Jerusalem is obviously not here yet, because according to Revelation 21, when it comes down upon the heaps of old, after the first Jerusalem is destroyed, like Isaiah chapter 1 speaks about. I've lost my frickin' place. Oh yeah. I have set watchmen upon your walls, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace day nor night. You that make mention of Jehovah, keep not silent. So in the other one it said he shall be quiet, meaning once he's in rest in the millennium kingdom, where they haven't got to teach anyone anything anymore. But right here now is telling you in Isaiah 62, which is talking about that city being set upon a hill that cannot be hid, like Yeshua warned you about in Matthew chapter 5. If you have that poor and contrite spirit who actually fills the Beatitudes, who are trembling at his word, knowing he doesn't want burnt offerings and sacrifices, but for you to obey his voice, and then to go out and look for the lost sheep of the house of Israel by turning the battle to the gate. Verse Isaiah 62. What did I just read? Yeah, so let me read that again. I have set watchmen upon your wall, O Jerusalem, which shall never hold their peace. Peace day nor night. Ye that make mention of Jehovah, keep not silent, and give him no rest, till he establisheth, until he make Jerusalem a praise in all the earth. So right there he's telling you we're not supposed to give them no rest until New Jerusalem is appraised in all the earth. So he's going to be at rest and be quiet, like we read in Jeremiah chapter 30, is talking about when the new covenant is here, and the new kingdom is here, and the new covenant is made, so on and so forth. So then we go on to read, let me read, 2 seconds. Revelation 21. Revelation 21. Yeah, Revelation 21. Okay, so basically what we just read, it's just telling you that we need to continue to fulfill the royal law until Yeshua returns with New Jerusalem, so on and so forth. But at the moment, the Christian church isn't doing that. They just tell you not to judge me when you try and sharply rebuke them and tell them that the wrath of God is actually appointed to them, but because they're the stiff-necked, rebellious people who don't want to take any correction. And we know that this is end days prophecy, because when we go to Revelation 21, and it says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. Now, right there, that's telling you the first heaven and the first earth is going to pass away. But like Isaiah tells you, heaven and earth is going to pass away, but his righteousness is never going to pass away. Why? Because when you go into that new covenant, he's going to write the laws on your hearts, and you're no more going to sin against him anymore, because the devil is going to be bound, just like I'm actually going to get into it, but the devil is going to be bound and cast into the thing. This is why no one's going to be sinning anymore, because they're not going to be tempted by the frickin' devil. So it says, verse 2, and I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from Jehovah out of heaven, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. So right there, that is that time period where Jacob's going to be at rest, and he's not going to have to give out his voice anymore against the cities of Jerusalem and all of this, because obviously they're in the new covenant. Now we jump back to Jeremiah 30. Okay, so it says, verse 11, for I am with thee, says Jehovah, to save you, though I make a full end of all the nations where I have scattered you, yet will I not make a full end of you, but I will correct you in measure, and I will not leave you altogether unpunished. So right there, that's telling you that all nations are going to be destroyed, okay, before Jacob, okay, but he's not going to, obviously, oh, let me read that again. Yeah, so basically, Jehovah scattered Jacob through the nations. He's going to make a full end of these people, but he's not going to make a full end of them where Jacob's been scattered, but he's going to correct you in measure, which is what is talking about in Hebrews chapter 12, where he's correcting you by that conviction through that Holy Spirit of grace. But if you become bastard children like the Christian church, and grace is having no more effect on you, and you've lost that saltiness, you're good for nothing but to be cast out and trodden underfoot by man, meaning you're going to go into great tribulation when the devil is cast down, like Isaiah 28 tells you, 28 to 30, because you're too busy covering with the Antichrist spirit of error instead of Jehovah's spirit, so you can just continue adding sin to sin, thinking you're justified to do all these abominations. Verse 12. So it says, for thus says Jehovah, your bruise is incredible and your wound is grievous. Shit. 2 seconds. Yeah, I'm just going to keep reading in Jeremiah a minute. So basically what we just read, let me read that again. For thus says Jehovah, thy bruise is incredible and thy wound is grievous. So right there is telling you, like, obviously your sins are again in the way your wound is grievous. So what you need to realize is that Jehovah does actually correct these people who he loves, like he tells you in Hebrews. But if you be without chastisement, you are actually bastard children. Then we go on to read in Jeremiah 30, verse 13. It says, there is none to plead your case, that thou mayest be bound up, that thou hast no healing medicine. So basically what that's telling you is everyone is basically going to hate you for fulfilling the royal law. Everyone's going to hate you Everyone is going to hate you for fulfilling the royal law, which is sharply rebuking these fables, because you are told by Yeshua that he was hated because he tells the world that their deeds are evil. And this is why it tells you in the scriptures that your brethren are going to cast you out for Jehovah's name's sake, but not realizing that he's going to appear to our joy, and these people are going to be ashamed, because we're actually that royal diadem in his hand, which is that breastplate with the 12 diadems on, which is turning the battle to the gate, like it tells you in Isaiah 28. But many of these people who are called out of the deception go too far right, and then they become the Isaiah 56 dumb dog watchmen who are sleeping, lying down, loving the slumber, who cannot bark because they're a bunch of respecters of persons, knowing everyone is going to hate them for doing so. So then we go on to read verse 14 of Jeremiah 30. It says, all your lovers have forgotten you. They seek you not. For I have wounded you with the wound of an enemy, with the chastisement of a cruel one, for the multitude of thy iniquities, because thy sins were increased. So right there, he's telling me, he's chastising us as a cruel one, meaning that he's going to bring that Matthew 10 sword upon us, just like I said, meaning our entire families are going to hate us and turn against us and do all of these things because we are a bunch of sinners. This is why there's no freaking pity party for people who have had shit happen in their life, because we all freaking deserve it, right? Verse 16, therefore, all they that devour you shall be devoured, and all thy adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity, and they that spoil thee shall be a spoil, and all that prey upon you will I give for a prey. Shit. So, right there, therefore, let me read that again. Therefore, all they that devour thee shall be devoured. So everyone who hates Jacob is going to be devoured, okay? They're going to hate him. And God is also going to punish them. And all thy adversaries, every one of them shall go into captivity. And they that spoil thee shall be spoiled. And all that prey upon you will I give for a prey, meaning these idiots are going to be going into great tribulation because they are the great sacrifice. So it goes on to say, I lost my freaking place. No, I think that's it a minute. Yeah, let's go to Isaiah 54. So right there is talking about all those who are being devoured, right? Yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to Isaiah 54. Right. So Isaiah 54, just to show you what I was saying, okay? Verse 15 says, behold, they shall surely gather together, but frick. Behold, they shall surely gather together, but not by me. Whosoever shall gather against you shall fall for thy sake. Behold, wrong verse. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that brings forth an instrument for his work. And I have created the waster to destroy. No weapon that is formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against you in judgment you shall condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of Jehovah, and their righteousness is of me. So right there, it tells you all these people who are hating on Jacob, which is like all the Christian churches, all these evil servants and all of these things, they're all going to gather together, but it's not going to be by Jehovah, but it's by that Antichrist spirit of error, thinking they're casting you out for his name's sake, but really he's going to appear to our joy and they're going to be ashamed. So let's go back to Jeremiah 30. Now, just to let you know as well, when we read Jeremiah 30, I think it was like 16 earlier, I think, whatever it was, it basically left out the fact that it's going to be Jacob who is coming to judge between the righteous and the wicked, just like Malachi 3 tells you, because they actually feared Jehovah and spoke often one to another. So let's go to Jeremiah 30 again, verse 17. It says, for I will restore health unto you, and will heal you of your wounds, says Jehovah, because they called you an outcast, saying, this is Zion, whom no man seeketh after. So that, I believe, is the restitution of all things, obviously, like it tells you in Acts 3, like I spoke about earlier. Verse 18, it says, thus says Jehovah, behold, I will bring again the captivity, I will bring again the captivity of Jacob's tents, and have mercy on his dwelling places. And the city shall be built upon her own heaps, and the palaces shall remain after the manner thereof. And out of them shall proceed thanksgiving, and the voice of them that make merry, and I will multiply them, and they shall not be few. I will also glorify them, and they shall not be small. So right there, how is Jacob going to, like, actually, I'm going to go read that now. So that right there is talking about the 144,000, okay? Two sec, I can't find freaking anymore. Two sec. Sorry, I couldn't freaking find it. I was looking in the wrong chapter. I was in Amos 5 and I was in 7. So it says, verse 5, it says, Then said I, O Jehovah God, cease, I beseech thee. By whom shall Jacob arise? For he is small. Jehovah repented for this. This also shall not be, say Jehovah God. So how is Jacob going to rise? So he is small, meaning he is going to do it anyway. Because when we go back to Jeremiah 30, verse 20, it says, Their children also shall be aforetime, and their congregation shall be established before me. And I will punish all that oppress them. Just like I told you in Isaiah 54, all those who are railing against us and gathering against us. Then it goes on to say, and their nobles shall be of themselves, and the governors shall proceed from the midst of them. And I will cause him to draw near, and he shall approach unto me. For who is this that engaged his heart to approach unto me, says Jehovah? So what that's telling you is in the new covenant, these kings and queens, they're the ones going to be ruling, and they're not going to be oppressed by all these wicked people anymore. So it says, and you shall be my people, and I will be your God. Shit, I've lost my place. So that, but there, you shall be my people, and you shall be my God. That what I was telling you earlier in the refreshing of the covenant, you're supposed to be gathered into the commonwealth of Israel. So, I will be the God. Yeah, and you shall be my people, and I will be your God. So basically, like I just said, that's what the gathering of the commonwealth of Israel. You can read Romans 9 all about it, where it actually talks about there's no longer a physical seed, but now it's a spiritual one. If you keep them two covenants of promise, and then you can be counted for the seed of Abraham, because this is how the promise was made, that all nations through his seed is going to be blessed. So then, when we go... I don't know where to go now. So, yeah, keep reading Jeremiah 30, I guess. Yeah, keep reading. Oh, yeah, so obviously, like, where the Northern Kingdom was booted out of the land, Romans 9 and all that is talking about them Northern Kingdom returning, once that spirit of grace is actually poured upon them to convict them to come back to God's righteousness. And then it says, because, like, obviously in Romans 7, it talks about God, Paul is basically telling you God isn't going to be able to break his own law. So when Yeshua came, he came as the husband, took away the sacrificial law so the Northern Kingdom could be remarried back unto him. Because what Paul's actually referring to is like Deuteronomy 24, maybe something along them lines, and that's what is telling you that basically Jehovah is our first love, just like Revelation chapter 2 tells you. But you people leaving your first love and going off and marrying a daughter of a strange god, so on and so forth. So then we keep reading in Jeremiah 30 verse 23. It says, Behold, the whirlwind of Jehovah goes forth with fury, which is the 144,000 whirlwind judgment, which you're told that them four winds are being held back by them archangels in Revelation chapter 7. A continuing whirlwind, it shall fall with pain upon the head of the wicked, a woman in travail, being in birth, giving pain, okay? The furious anger of Jehovah shall not return until he have done it, until he have performed the intents of his heart. In the last days, you should consider it perfectly. So the whirlwind judgment is the 144,000 judgment, obviously, like I just said. Like after the 144,000 is actually sealed in their forehead by God, like also I just said, the four archangels holding back the winds. You can read about it in Ezekiel chapter 1, chapter 10, Zechariah 1 to 6, so on and so forth, Revelation 1 to 10. So it says, there are no chapter breaks. So there's no chapter breaks in the scroll. At the same time, says Jehovah, will I be the God of the families of Israel, and they shall be my people. So that is obviously talking about the new covenant. After the whirlwind judgment and Jacob's trouble, the second Exodus, so on and so forth, which we know that's not going to be mentioned anymore. So you know that couldn't quite possibly have happened yet. So that's debunking right there that we're even in the new covenant. Then it goes on to say, thus says Jehovah, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Israel, when I went to cause him to rest, like we read earlier, when they're not going to learn more anymore. And Jacob's no longer going to be fulfilling the royal law, screaming from the housetops, because no one's going to have to teach anyone to know Jehovah. Shit. So right there, let me read that again then. So it says, thus says Jehovah, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness. So whoever doesn't basically die in great tribulation by the sword, they're going to find grace in the wilderness because they're going to keep the covenant and they're not going to perish. Verse 31, I'm going to jump down to verse 31 of Jeremiah 31. And by the way, I was in Jeremiah 31, verse 1 and 2 by then, by the way. So we jump down to verse 31. It says, behold, the days come, says Jehovah, that I will make a new covenant. So after all these things have taken place and Jacob's trouble and all of this, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. So, yeah, so right there, behold, the days come, says Jehovah, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. So the new covenant is only made with the house of Israel and the house of Judah. Why? Because in the refreshing of the covenant, like it tells you in Ephesians 2:12, if you keep them covenants, you can be counted for the commonwealth of Israel. So this new covenant can be made with you. Oh. Verse 32, it says, not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt, which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, says Jehovah. So the covenant of Egypt, when they come to Egypt, will be the Ten Commandments. And it said, but let me just keep reading. But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, says Jehovah. I will put my law in their inward parts and write them in their hearts, and I will be their God, and they shall be my people. So right there, that's telling you, I will make a covenant with the house of Israel after those days. So right there, obviously, that's telling you the covenant's going to be made with the house of Israel after those days, after the refreshing, after the the restitution of all things, all of these things, then that covenant is going to be made with the house of Israel. Now you've got the stupid Christian church saying out of their mouth that they are Gentiles, and then saying again that they're in the new covenant, not realizing that they wouldn't be Gentiles if they was in the new freaking covenant, because they would be counted for the seed of Israel. That's how stupid they are. And then it goes on to say, oh yeah, and obviously like, oh yeah, and talking about it's going to be written in their hearts, like I just said, so no one's going to have to teach anyone to know Jehovah, because everyone's going to know him. And obviously they're not going to be sinning, because like it tells you in Revelation 20, that Satan's going to be bound for that 1,000 years, so they're not going to be tempted anymore, so on and so forth. Then we read verse 24. It says, 34 even, and they shall teach no more every man his neighbour and every man his brother, saying, Know Jehovah, for they all shall know me, from the least of them even to the greatest of them, says Jehovah. For I will forgive their iniquities and remember their sins no more. Like, so everyone's going to know me from the least of them to the greatest of them. When we go to 1 John chapter 2, let's see what it means to know him. 1 John 2 says, and hereby we do know that we know him, if we keep his commandments, which is the 10 commandments, which are going to be written on your heart in the new covenant. He that saith, I know him, and keeps not his commandments, is a liar. 45,000 denominations, Christian churches, and the truth is not in him. Speaking about that spirit of truth is not in you, because you're a bunch of freaking liars. Might as well go to Hebrews 8 now. Finish it off with that. Hebrews 8, I'm going to start from verse 7. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second. So right there, that's telling you, if the first covenant had been faultless, it would not be no place for the second. Now, that isn't telling you that he found fault with the covenant, but he found fault with them people who was breaking his covenant, because the next verse says, for finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, says Jehovah, when I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. So he found fault with them and not with this covenant. Yeah, so yeah, right there. So Jehovah is telling you he didn't find fault with them, but he didn't find fault with his covenant, but he found fault with them. So now he's going to make a new covenant where the devil is going to be bound and no one's going to be sinning anymore. Okay, that's what the new covenant is. Where was I? Lost my verse. Verse 12, I'm going to jump down to, for I will be merciful to their unrighteousness, which is exactly what he's going to show you when he makes a new covenant and Satan is bound and you're not going to sin anymore and he's going to write his laws upon your hearts. He's very merciful. For I will be merciful unto their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. Yeah, for I will be merciful. Yeah, I'm going to read verse 13. For I will be merciful unto their unrighteousness, and their sins and their iniquities will I remember no more. In that he saith, a new covenant he hath made the first old, now that which decayeth and waxeth old is ready to vanish away. So what he's telling you in them two verses is that he was basically merciful enough to send Yeshua to die for you, to refresh that covenant so you could be counted for the seed of Israel. But just like prophecy tells you, you completely reject all of these things. So, yeah, let me actually just jump to Revelation for a minute, chapter 3. Because I'm going to finish up on this now. So right there, we just heard about the new covenant is only going to be made with the house of Israel and the house of Judah when they're in the land dwelling safely. And Jehovah was merciful enough to send Yeshua to refresh the holy covenant, because when you read into verse 13 of Hebrews 8, like I just read, it talks about that which waxeth old and ready to vanish away. So meaning it isn't vanished yet. So what that's talking about is after Yeshua came as that capital P prophet from Deuteronomy 18 to refresh the holy covenant, to take away the handwritten ordinance, he left you and set you at liberty, and you were supposed to take up that higher calling like Jacob did and become them Ezekiel 2, 3 and 33 watchmen and warn his people about the sword that's coming upon them. So when we go to Revelation chapter 3 verse 1, it says, and unto the angel of the church of Sardis write these things, saith he that hath the seven spirits of God and the seven stars. I know your works, that thou hast a name, that thou live and art dead, dead in your trespasses and sins. Be watchful, take up that higher calling, turn the battle to gate, and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die, for I have not found your works perfect for before God. So repent, Christian church.